Together We Thrive honors all those who were killed and injured on January 8th, but celebrates how we responded as a community. And we hope that it's going to play a part in moving forward to be an even better community. Indeed, all of our hearts were broken on January 8th, but something else happened. I think our hearts were opened in ways that we couldn't have imagined before. When I first visited the memorials the day after the shootings, I was really struck by the thoughtfulness that was evidenced there. You know, the boxes of Kleenex, the bottles of water, the little butane lighters so everybody could light their candles, and the abundance of food that local restaurants like El Charro, Lucky Wishbone, E.G.'s brought for us all. It was only later that I began to see the beauty in the memorials. And I remember standing in front of 6 clay pots, one for each of the people who were killed that day. And I stared at them and I thought about, they were filled with yellow pansies. And I thought about what it took to get those pots to the front of the lawn of UMC. So it was really at that moment that I decided I'd create a collection of images to share with Congresswoman Giffords, because I knew she'd never see this outpouring of love. So really, that's how the book evolved, really from the idea of a simple gift for Gabby. And then the images and the words of the president, I think, remind me of how that we can't control what's going to happen in our lives and our community, but we can and must determine how we're going to respond.
Well, I want to thank Janet, first of all, because none of this would have been possible without her vision and her dream. She's on our advisory board for the Fund for Civility, Respect, and Understanding. And she brought what she calls the ugly version of her book, which is hardly ugly, believe me. Certainly, Terry did a great job with the redesign, but she brought it to our advisory board meeting, and we passed it around the room. And I noticed Kleenexes were being pulled out of purses, and I don't think there was a dry eye around that table. And I think that told us both that this was a book that had great power in many ways. I think what happened, right after the shooting, as has been said by our speakers before, is really a demonstration of the Tucson that we know and love. And I would say the greater region, really, because it's not just people who live in Tucson, but it's people all across this part of our wonderful state who responded in a way that was extraordinary, at least to people who came in from national media. Various members of the national media, anchors for various networks, said they had never seen anything like this. They had never seen a community respond to a tragedy or a natural disaster in the way our community did. And for that, we have to be very proud. The memorials were spontaneous. No one necessarily organized them, they just happened. They happened at Safeway, they happened at our congressional office, and they happened, of course, at UMC. And I was hearing about this as I was in the ICU, and my family were telling me about how this one on the lawn was just growing and growing and growing, and I finally said, I have to see this before they take it down. I didn't know how long it would be up. And so they wheeled me out, and hefty people lifted me over the curbs and all of that to see, and I was very, very moved. In fact, I think you couldn't go there without being moved by what was being displayed by our community. Poems and ceramic tiles with messages, flowers and candles and photographs and banners from school kids and drawings and on and on and on. And people coming every night to play music. The mariachis, I believe, sang every night outside of UMC, and others chanted and drummed and read poems and prayed. It was a remarkable showing of community spirit and unity. And so that's what we are, and that's who we are, and that's what this book represents. When the memorials were going to be taken down, and they had to be taken down, obviously, eventually, I got a lot of contact from people, as did my family, lamenting the idea that they wouldn't have a place to go anymore, to be able to show their respects or to express their feelings. And that's true. I mean, the tangible aspect that those memorials provided was really important to our healing process as a community. And so in some ways, I believe that we, through this book, are giving the community another tangible way of remembering not just that terrible day, because that certainly will be seared in our memories, but really remembering what came out of it. The memorials were a representation of a community spirit and compassion and love that is really extraordinary, and we're also fortunate to be a part of. So I truly thank Janet for her inspiration to bring the book to life and to pair it up, the photographs with the president's speech, which was truly remarkable, as all of you who heard it or were there would know.
So just tell me a little bit about the book.
Well, it really did just start as an idea for a collection of photographs that I would give Gabby. And I thought I would do a simple blurb.com book for her. I thought the images were beautiful, and then when it occurred to me that the words of the president and the images could be really powerful, I put that together, and really Ron and I looked at it together and decided that this is something we could publish together as a partnership. And that I think it was when I showed it to a woman who was very close to Gabby and has had a really difficult year over this, and she told me it was the first experience of healing that she felt since January. So I thought, this is in itself, I think it serves a purpose, just as something that feels hopeful, commemorates what happened to us and how we dealt with it. But then it never occurred to me that we could raise some significant funds for some things that were really important to do for the community. So when that all came together, thanks to the generosity of Arizona lithographers, Terry Rich, the designer, it just feels like a wonderful project that can help us move forward.
You were out there a lot, taking pictures at the memorials, weren't you?
I was. Did you see me? Yeah, I was at the hospital a lot. So, and the truth is, when I first went, I couldn't really capture the images. I was too distraught myself, and that's when I noticed how people were so, people we didn't even know were trying to care for each other. The boxes of Kleenex, the bottles of water, the food, the butane lighters. And so I can identify some photos I took, even in this book, the day after. But as my ability, frankly, to see better, in the week after, improved, then I really worked at getting the images that I felt really hopeful. And then there were times where I happened to be there and the light wasn't great, and there was something I wanted to go back and get in better light. So it was. So I probably have 150 images that I've kept from this project, and there are 22 in the book.
Is there one, especially in the book, that speaks to you that you find meaningful?
Well, the one that I really love, the opening photograph that has the angels with the flag in the back. I love this one. I wanted to open with this one, and I think I'm very touched by the photograph of Christina. And of course, this is a photograph people have seen. But it's the little car and the coins and this context I think is very beautiful. But as you work through the book, I think I was, some of the things like this I was completely amazed at. It's a sort of accordion folded magazine paper that created this wonderful chain. I thought, so when you stop to think how much time and care people put into these beautiful objects that they brought. It wasn't just that you stopped by Safeway, picked up a votive candle, and took it there. People really put a lot into these efforts. And of course, this was really, it was these 6 pots that stopped me in my tracks, because I thought they were in front of UMC. Somebody had to buy 6 pots, put the names on each one of them, plant them with flowers, and haul them to the front lawn of UMC. I mean, that took a lot to do that. So one of the things I hope to meet some of these people as these see these images and come forward and say, yeah, that's what I did that. I've had, there's one, a member of our board, Tiana Ronstadt, thinks this is the chain the children in her neighborhood made and brought to the memorial. So hearing some of those stories has really been fun for me. And I think as the book has more exposure and people see these images, I think we'll hear more of those stories. I love this one just because of the light. It was morning light in front of Congresswoman Gifford's office. This I thought was really a wonderful, all kinds of things in this image, from a happy face balloon in the background to the, origami bird chain. And this is the only image from Safeway. It was a different feel there. Physically, a more confined space for one thing. But I think it's as much as anything. I do have some images that are good from that, but I think it had more to do with how I felt when I was there.
Almost all the images in the book are taken during the day.
Yes.
And so many of a lot of the photos and videos that we published and that other news organizations published were at night to see it came.
Yeah, I love the details of things. And really, where I love those evening images. I have a few of them. I love the light of day. And I think that's really what was attracting me as I looked at these images. The beautiful light. It felt more hopeful. It didn't feel like a funeral. And it really, what I had originally intended wasn't even going to include some of the earlier photographs. I included those because once I decided to use the president's words, I wanted an image that represented everyone who was killed that day. But I really was looking, in thinking about what I wanted to present to Congresswoman Gifford, it really was more of the images like this. I mean, this was in front of her office. Again, carved out cactus forest, decorated, and it was huge. It was probably at least 6 feet wide, 4 feet deep. So these are the images that were that I loved. This was taken the day after, however. So a couple of them. This was taken the day after.
Taking these photos, was this a way for you personally to cope?
Oh, I'm sure. Yes, absolutely. And I could tell I was getting a little more able to cope as I was able to take images, because at first I couldn't do it. I mean, I had my camera, because I generally have it with me, but it was very hard. And at first I didn't, really what I noticed first was everybody being there, what they brought to each other, and I couldn't create the images.